guys. I don't know how you feel. I feel pretty exhausted after that one. I feel a bit like I've played for that 10-men Arsenal team, clinging on in that match. Full time at the Etihad, Manchester City 2, Arsenal 2. And football is a funny sport, isn't it? I mean, if I told you before the game, we'll get a draw, we'll get a point, we'll have 10 men, I think you would have absolutely snapped my hand off. But at the same time, not winning, this one feels like a real body blow, a sucker punch, given the fact that we led for so long, given the way we competed and defended in that second half, and given the cruelty of that late winner. Hey, I still think there's a lot of positives to be taken from the performance. I think we showed that we are the team who can really compete with City. I don't think there's another side in the Premier League who could defend that well with 10 men against this Manchester City side. Arsenal made them look quite ordinary for much of that, and were it not for a lucky break on a corner that I think was outside of the allotted period of stoppage time, and where Arsenal had a few tired legs and a few tired minds, we would have won this game. Huge credit to the players for the effort they put in the second half, and huge credit to them in the first half as well. How many times have we seen Arsenal go to the Etihad, concede the first goal, as they did on this occasion to Erling Haaland, and collapse? It's all very well when you're defending a lead, but to go behind and then turn things round to lead the game before half-time, I think that tells you about the enormous reserves of belief that are present in this squad at this point in time. It was an interesting team. Ben White didn't start. We had Calafiori and Timber at fullback, Havertz in midfield with Rice and Partey, Trossard leading the line, and Saka and Martinelli as the wide men. And I think Calafiori took a bit of time to really get into the game. He was beaten by Savinho quite easily on the first goal. Arsenal's defensive line, for a rare moment, wasn't particularly well set. I think Gabriel was playing Haaland onside. In fairness to him, he was kind of pulled out of position by a run from Bernardo Silva as well. City's movement off the ball is what makes playing against them so difficult at times. They've always got 2 or 3 runners pulling the defenders in different directions. Haaland loves that. He exploits the space, and a really nonchalant finish inside David Raya's near post. But there was to be a turnaround. And I think there are 2 big incidents in this game that have been kind of defining. Right, and one is obviously the sending off of Trossard. And that had a huge impact on the match. But I also think the injury of Rodri had a huge impact on the game. Innocuous challenge with Thomas Partey at a corner. He goes down with a knee injury. You obviously don't wish injury on any player, but I think Arsenal fans will have breathed a sigh of relief when he went off the pitch, because he is such an important player for City and has been such an important player in these fixtures over the years. He's an important player for City, full stop. I mean, if they're going to be without him for a number of weeks, that could be a huge boost to Arsenal and to their title challenge. And it swung the game. I really do think that swung the game in the first half. Arsenal came back into it. Calafiori, he grew into the game just a bit. Bent home a beautiful shot from a Martinelli cutback. I mean, it was a really inch-perfect finish into the far top corner. It was kind of the only shot that he could pull off on his left foot from that angle, and he managed it. That's the level of technical ability we're dealing with. They reminded me of Saliba's goal against Bournemouth towards the start of last season. Celebrated with Mikel Arteta on the touchline. And then there was the set-piece threat, right? Gabriel threatened once and probably should have scored. Header was very close just over the bar, didn't get it down. Well, no mistake the second time. Saka lofting another ball towards the far post. Kyle Walker left stranded and Gabriel powers it in. And at that point, Arsenal looked really good, really comfortable. I actually think that with Rodri off the pitch and with... just reject a phone call that's coming in. With Rodri off the pitch and with Arsenal having 11 men on, I think we would have won this game. I mean, obviously we'll never know, and maybe we would have been more ambitious going forward and would have left space for the likes of Haaland and then later, Grealish and Foden off the bench. Who knows, right? But we were in a very strong position, and that is why the loss of Leandro Trossard for sending off was so significant, so painful. I mean, I've got really mixed feelings on this one, okay? So, I want delaying a restart to be dealt with. I always think about that home game against Newcastle. Do you remember like a year or 2 ago, and what a nightmare it was, and how there weren't enough bookings? And we will have home games at the Emirates Stadium where we are crying out for those delays to be punished, and punished sharply, early. Arsenal are a team who probably more often than not will actually benefit from this new directive if it's applied fairly. Okay, so I sort of want it. At the same time, sending a player off and putting a team down to 10 men, it's unduly harsh. It really does seem like an absurd level of punishment for a relatively minor infraction. I wonder if a better solution would be something like, if you delay the restart, a minute is added on in stoppage time. I mean, that would be quite an interesting one. You know, maybe even not a minute, but automatically 30 seconds. The same way as a substitution is an auto 30 seconds. Maybe that could be a way of dealing with it. Rather than yellow card, you're going to face a guaranteed 30 seconds more in stoppage time. I don't know. But, you know, sin bins is another argument. But taking off a player in a game that had been quite a sort of enthralling end-to-end contest, a lot more needle in the game, in the rivalry in general, I would say, than there ever has been. You know, lots of confrontations between players and staff. Kai Havertz laid a marker in the first 14 seconds, didn't he, barging into Rodri? And it continued kind of in that vein right up until the last kick of the game. Miles Lewis scaling it face-to-face with Erling Haaland on his Premier League debut in that little scrap. I just think it's so harsh. It's a really interesting one though, isn't it? I mean, I just think it destroyed the game as a spectacle. It led to the second half being a training exercise, quite a gripping training exercise, but not really what we want from a kind of showpiece fixture like this. It seems absurd. Like, if the idea of punishing the guy who's delaying the restart is to sort of protect the integrity of the spectacle, well, arguably taking a man off the pitch is doing a lot more damage to the spectacle. So it's something they really need to think long and hard about. Is it something Arsenal are being particularly discriminated against for? I don't know. It does feel like that after the João Pedro one in the Brighton game went unpunished. The Doku one I need to see again. I think it might have been a bit different, because if you look, the referee sort of points where he wants the free kick taken from, and Doku knocks the ball back in that direction. But, I'd need to watch that again, and frankly, I don't think I can face it. But here's where I'm at with it. Really harsh. It's kind of an absurd application of the rule. I think Trossard is kind of being instinctive. He's just doing what footballers do, and what he's done his whole career. You know, he's 28, 29. His whole career, when a free kick's been given, he's probably booted the ball away. And he's just acting on instinct. He also might suspect he's about to blow for half-time, because again, I think we were past the allotted stoppage time. And he might think, oh, he's blown. But I do think in the cold light of day tomorrow, we might say, look, we know the parameters. We've had the warning of Rice being sent off for this. We've had before that, you know, PGMOL coming in and telling us it's going to be an important initiative this season. Arsenal have got a lot better, a lot cuter around gamesmanship and small margins, but this is a margin that matters. We need to stop losing players to this. It needs to end now. And if referees are going to continue to look to send our players off for it, then our players have to be smarter and more cute. That's my take on it. We know we can't change what referees do, but we can change what we can do. So off he goes. And the second half, I mean, it is what it is. I think I was a bit worried that we didn't play with any kind of outlet. But to be fair to Arteta and to be fair to the players, they nearly got it right. And I think they had enormous confidence in their ability to see it out. I remember seeing Gabriel on camera after 81 minutes and he was smiling. He was like, I love this. I think there are players in this team who enjoy that. I think Gabriel and Saliba are obviously among them. David Raya, who was good again. Declan Rice, I think, relishes some of that aspect of the game. And Kai Havertz. When we signed Kai Havertz, did anyone think we'd be talking about him as a guy who relishes a backs-to-the-wall defensive effort? I didn't hear much of that in kind of the reports I heard from various Chelsea fans I spoke to, but there you go, it's the player he's become. I'm going to pick out two players who have been criticised a lot recently. It's not that I think they were the best, but I think they've had a lot of stick, and when players do good things, they deserve commendation. I'm going to pick out Gabriel Martinelli, who I thought worked incredibly hard and did carry the threat, particularly in the first half. In the second half, spent much of the game defending as a kind of sixth man in defence, an extra left back. But I thought, he stayed on the field and Saka didn't. Maybe there was an injury there, but I think that tells you the degree of trust that Arteta has in him to apply himself, to work hard, to track back. And I thought he was outstanding in that respect. And I'm going to mention Thomas Partey as well, because basically for most of 2024, I've not been that impressed with his performances. I think today he quietly did a lot of very good work on the edge of our box. Gabriel and Saliba obviously defend that box brilliantly, but against City, you've got to win the knockdowns. You've got to win the second balls. And it looked to me like he got there very often, and he had a bit of composure on the ball when we needed it, just to give us a few seconds respite here and there. So shout out to those two guys. Arsenal will be angry. Arsenal will be annoyed. I expect Mikel Arteta to come out fighting. I'm sure we'll be talking about the referees. I think they'll be using this as motivation. And I mentioned that needle. I mentioned that spikiness between the two teams. Could that fuel Arsenal in what remains of the season? There is a long way to go, but we are very, very well positioned. I'm going to leave it there for now. Oh, knackered after that. Absolutely knackered. And a load of different podcasts to do about it over the next few days. So I've got Handbrake off in a minute. I've got Ask Us Extra tomorrow. I've got the Athletic Football podcast tomorrow lunchtime. They will be available all the usual places. Thanks for putting up with my wallpaper, which plenty of you got in touch to let me know you don't like. And same with my shaved face. A lot of you don't like that either, but I had to shave it for work. That's the way it goes. Mixed feelings tonight. But I think in context, in time, we'll come to see it as a good point, a point gained. And City, at home to a title rival, playing a full half against 10 men, maybe they will look at it as 2 points dropped. We shall see. I'll leave it there, guys. Take care. All the best. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.